You see Natasha? I don't see it.
Unless she's coming in as an attendee.
Yeah, that's what she would probably do.
You come in on the attendee link.
You can, but Artie, you can go ahead and start the meeting.
Okay, this is the June 3rd meeting of the Needham Planning Board. My name is Artie Crocker. I am the chair. This meeting is held in a hybrid manner in accordance with the laws of Massachusetts. If you are on Zoom, if we have some people speaking via Zoom, please be careful with what's behind you. These people will see it. And so let me take attendance. So Adam,
Yes? Present?
Justin,
Present?
Artie Crocker is present. And Alex, is anyone else up there at all? Natasha, anyone?
No.
Okay, so that being the case, we're gonna start with A&R plan. And the owner, Devon Sampucci, or Devon Sampucci, is he up there? Or she up there, excuse me.
We got a word that there's no sound on Zoom. Someone who's watching this.
Oh, the owls. Oh, yeah, the owl's muted.
The owl's red.
Well, I think the owl is supposed to be muted when the Needham channel's here, so let me just.
Okay.
Testing, testing.
Does anyone hear us?
Can somebody raise their hand if they can, I don't know.
There's someone who raised their hand.
All right, so that
Okay.
means
So
you
you
are
can
here.
hear us.
Okay.
Thanks,
We're good.
everyone.
Hey, thank you, we're good. Thank you very much. You can put your hands down now, I appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna start the A&R plan, and I'll ask again, is Devon Sampucci here?
No.
No,
So we can't go.
so we can't
Yeah,
start
you
the,
can. I don't think they'll be.
okay. Okay, well, let's start the A&R plan. Okay, so Lee, why don't you let us know if there's anything, we've looked at it, we see what's going on. Is there anything, why don't you tell us what's going on? Are there any concerns you have? And then we'll ask you guys if there's any concerns you have.
Sure. That's Marianne's the can. It has no audio.
No audio?
I'll just.
Well, we're gonna hold up because there may still be an audio issue. Is there an audio issue still?
We're just figuring it out.
Artie, I can hear you. I don't know. This is Natasha. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can,
We
thank
can,
you.
okay, thank you. Okay, well, we started the A&R, we'll finish that, we'll just wrap it up.
Okay,
Lee,
so essentially, this is an approval not required plan and involves two lots. One has frontage on a public way, the other has frontage on a private way, which actually provides access to the lot. Okay, effectively, what's happening is the rear of the house on Frank Street is being carved off. It's a parcel of around 4,000 square feet, and it's being conveyed to the property immediately behind it, which has frontage on Webster Street. And so both lots have required minimum frontage on a way, which is your standard for approving an approval not required plan. It's been reviewed by the engineering department and by the planning staff, and we feel that it's appropriate for your approval and endorsement.
Are they looking to,
Al, go ahead.
are they looking to further subdivide that parcel or just transfer that 4,000 square foot parcel to the other house?
Right now, this plan is just showing the transfer.
Do they intend to knock that house down and build a bigger house?
I don't know what their building plans are.
No one asked.
Well, we
It's
don't
not,
know.
it's really
Yeah.
not our role.
Yeah. I don't have any questions on it, it's appropriate, fits under the A&R. Justin, do you have any
I don't
questions?
have any questions when I was looking at it. It's fine.
Okay. Adam, you all set?
Yep.
Okay,
Natasha.
I'm all
Natasha,
set. Thank you. Yes.
and Needham Channel, could you kill the echo? Thank you.
All right, they're closing the doors.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna take a roll call vote. Natasha? I'm sorry,
Aye.
need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
We a motion to endorse the plan.
Endorse
as-
the A&R plan,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Second.
Natasha seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing none, come to the vote. Natasha?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
And Artie votes aye. Thank you very much. Now we can move on to, well, yeah, now we can move on to Wingate. So, one of you guys come up. I know there's a few of you, maybe just two of you here, excuse me.
Mr. Chair?
Two here. I'm sorry.
I move the,
Waive the reading?
I moved waiving of the notice of hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Natasha?
No. Aye.
Aye, okay. Adam?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
And I vote aye. We've waived the reading. So what we have before us, we have David Fellman from Wingate. We have Tom Minor, who's a landscape architect. Landscape architect. Okay. So why don't you tell us, I mean, it's in the packet, but why don't you go through what you have?
Sure. We're here tonight to modify the previously approved site plan to include the following changes: the addition of 2 EV charging stations to accommodate 4 parking spaces, the addition of a bocce ball court, the addition of a small dog run, the extension of an internal sidewalk to create a firm path for our residents to get from the resident entrance out to Gould Street without having to walk in the driveway. And we'd like to add back 3 parking spaces that were previously removed.
Why were they removed?
We were trying to limit the parking. We're still in compliance, more than in compliance with the parking requirement under the zoning bylaw.
And so do you have any, sorry, do you have any comments yourself? That would be Tom. Do you have any comments? No. Nothing, okay. So we have some, the only department that voiced any comments is all the other departments with no comment, from fire, police, DPW, building, and design review. And so the only comment came from the Board of Health, and that was, it looks like all of it was simply related to the dogs.
Yep.
Will there be a dog refuge place? Is there a plan in place to make sure it's kept? Is there anything outside of the dog run related to where the dogs will be, and what's the plan for that?
Yeah, so we're planning on adding a dog refuse station that'll supply plastic bags, obviously a notice to curb your dogs, and a waste disposal site as part of the waste receptacle at the dog station. We're going to provide a water station for the dogs as well. Our maintenance staff will police the area on a daily basis as part of their regular morning routine.
Some other comments they had was shaded areas for the dogs. What's going to happen with
The
that?
existing location is in the shaded
It
area.
is in the shade. And I take it the owners are supposed to be with the dogs in these parks?
Yep.
That's a requirement on your
Yeah,
part?
that's part of the house rules, that the owner will have to be accompanying their dogs. And to be honest with you, this is a just in case. We don't anticipate a lot of dogs. I think right now on the entire campus, there's 1 dog. At most, there was 3. So,
When you say campus, you're talking about the buildings down?
right next door.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything else? Is that it?
That's pretty much it.
I mean, the questions I had were answered, which is the Board of Health questions. Adam, do you have any questions, concerns?
Thanks, Artie. I saw that there were no really substantive comments from any town department other than the Department of Health. I'm curious if you made comments back to the Department of Health. Are you okay to incorporate your comments in with the condition of our
That's fine.
planning, of our special permit or revision? And my next question really is for you, Lee. Would these be regarded as de minimis?
No, we advertised this for a hearing, in large part because the place where the dogs were going to be kept or was directly abutting residential butters across the fence. And then there was some issues or concern about the noise that might come with a new athletic facility that was being put in there. So for that reason, we thought it was just prudent to advertise it, given the fact that there are single-family houses directly abutting where these activities are proposed to be placed.
Pull that back up, please, Alex. Thanks, Alex. Oh, I suppose the plant grows here. Where are the single-family homes?
That's right, immediately
Right where the
behind that.
top left.
These are Wingate buildings. So where am I looking?
It's,
The circle part is the corner of
his maps.
Gould and Highland Ave, the circular part right there.
So,
Alex, can you point them out on
Here.
the
What
site
you're looking
plan?
at?
it's a
Well, I
different
can
map.
try to go to Google. Will that be helpful?
Well, I mean, there's the corner.
Right.
The dog one is somewhere. It was landscaping,
it's
that's a
the house
bocce.
that's back.
The
Okay.
dog one is up.
Yep. And there's, yeah, okay, there's
Where
the
the hell is
house.
the dog one? See the bocce court, the dog one is supposed to be somewhere around here. I see it right there.
I think Putnam Street comes down there.
Yeah, Putnam Street,
Yeah,
yeah. So these are residents.
Those, I see.
And I think it's because of it's in proposed landscape.
And what's the distance between the dog run and that neighbor's house?
Is that, sorry, am I getting my bearings here?
I-
Okay,
Okay.
so, yeah, you guys can point it out. It's,
It's basically where the concrete block does a semicircle underneath those trees.
I see.
So you're not taking any trees down or anything like that?
Trees down, the existing area is pretty much completely shaded, so we can't go grass there anyway. It's a perfect area for residents to bring a dog to do their business, and the resident could actually sit outside the gate and let the dog off leash, as long as they don't vacate the area.
Is this a double gate? Will it be double gated or a single gate?
Single gate. And then, while you have this picture up, that grass area is where the bocce court is gonna be.
And I didn't see in the packet any comment from any of the letters, but maybe there's someone online that wants to speak to that.
Are we?
That's all I have.
Hold on, Justin?
I don't have any questions. I would, if there was any members of the public, I would want to hear their comments.
Yeah.
And then I may reserve the right to opine.
Alex, is there anyone with a hand raised?
Artie, I don't have any comments either, just,
Oh, sorry, that's my.
no, it's okay.
I apologize about that. So if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on this change at Wingate, please raise your hand now.
I don't see any hands raised.
I don't see any hands raised either. Adam, I mean Justin? Nothing still?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
have anything.
Okay.
And there's no members in here. that-
Yeah, I don't see anyone here. Adam, any further comments at all?
No,
Okay,
I'm satisfied. I move,
motion to close the hearing?
you comfortable with that?
yes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comments, any discussion? Hearing none. Natasha?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
And Artie votes aye. Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Thank
Look forward to having, seeing what you guys. what it looks
Appreciate
like
the
when it's finished.
improvements.
As we'll do, I'll draft a decision that you'll vote at the next meeting. Okay?
And they're all via Zoom. Okay. Okay. One second. Excuse me a second, guys. I suppose we can, do you want to jump, we can do the Board of Appeals, but if is everyone here from the Muzzy?
We have 4 people, it's fine.
Well, no, I mean, no, this is just a discussion. Is everyone here from the Muzzy owners? Robert Slager, Mark DiOrio, Eric Wayant, Timothy Sullivan, Sean Manning.
I think if you're ready, we should just bring over who is
Eric,
here.
Eric is there. Yeah, but I mean, I think we need to bring over more than one.
No,
Tim
we
Sullivan.
will. We'll bring over everybody who's here.
Alex is on it. Here she comes.
Just if I had better eyesight. that would
Right.
really
Everybody,
help. Hi.
I'm not sure if I think Mark was, yeah. I'm not sure if Robert was still in the group as well.
I can't.
You want me to scroll for you? Oh. Mouse is wireless.
Yeah, thank you.
I need to bring glasses so I
I
can see.
know.
Magnifying
Magnify-
glasses is
I
what
bought
you need, like a
one.
telescope.
For the planning board.
I have some binoculars in the car.
So, Tim, I don't see, Bob or, Sean on the call. Do you see them?
Tim, are you expecting them?
No.
Robert should be on.
Did they think it was going to take place at 7:30 or something like that?
I think so. I don't see Robert here. And who else am I looking for?
I can text Robert.
Which I just did. I think
Oh.
we anticipated
Do
a
we have
slight-
anything,
Thank you.
Artie, do we have anything that
Well,
we
we
can
have-
do for the next 5 minutes while they come
Well,
in?
we can deal with some minutes. We got some of the Board of Appeals.
Now, let's do that then.
Okay. Okay, let's deal with the Board of Appeals.
Was there anything, Lee, that caught your attention for the board?
No, I think that was the additional garage.
Yeah, well, there was the garage, the,
And then the other one was just basically a continuation of
Yeah.
the case you've already commented on, which was the 40B project.
yeah, so someone's adding a pergola-style thing to the pool, and they want to have part of it be a garage. And this is in the back of the property. I don't have an issue with it. You know, it's adding an additional, maybe something, maybe fourth garage, but it's way in the back of the property.
I don't see anything for the planning board in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, so,
I move to comment on the cases of the Board of Appeals.
Second.
12 meeting.
okay, any discussion? Hearing none. Natasha?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Artie votes aye. Okay, that's done with. Now we have the minutes.
Well, Tim, do you
Mr.
have
Chair,
Robert?
Sorry, Tim Sullivan. We did get a note from Robert to start without him at whatever point you'd like us to do so.
Tim, will he be joining us
I
later?
believe
or-
I believe he will, but
Okay.
Okay,
Tim, what's your preference? Do you want us to continue on, or do you want us to go with you now?
I mean,
well, Robert said to continue without him until he joins up. So Tim, if you guys are ready to go, why don't you go? When you started? And just to recap again, this is Tim Sullivan, the attorney for Bullfinch, and what is, Eric Wyant is here. Who else was here?
Mark Diorio is on the line from Bullfinch, as well as Sean Manning.
Sean? Okay. so
Robert
Sean
unfortunately is
Manning.
having some technical difficulties. I'm trying to see if we can get him in on his phone. His computer is having some problems, so hopefully he'll be with us
that?
shortly.
Who's having problems?
Robert.
Robert Schlager's having problems with his computer, so I'm going to try to see if he can connect in via his phone. So hopefully he'll be with us shortly.
Okay. So Tim, would you like to start?
I hope I didn't pressure the guy.
Sure. I'll give a brief introduction, and then Eric can walk through the slides. Thank you for having us in tonight. Appreciate it. I think the goal tonight is to have really an informal discussion to get some feedback. Obviously, we spent a lot of time working through the special permit project, getting it to a place with this board. And, the market right now for life sciences is quite challenging. So trying to, what was permitted, which Eric will go through, was a lab office development. We spent a lot of time talking about the south building and the north building and the landscaping and the parking garage, all under the Highway Commercial 1 overlay. But essentially, the use of that project was a lab office mix. And that, as I think we all know, is a very challenged environment at the moment, particularly and getting more challenging than less. So really wanted to have the opportunity to come in, remind the board a little bit about sort of what we permit. I know we all know, but it's been a while. I had to remind myself. And then sort of talk about some of the things we've been thinking about, because I think, like the board, our goal is really to activate the site and get it back into something, that would be tax generating and usable and a nice entry to Needham. So the goal here tonight is really just to talk about some of the things we've been thinking about, Some of those would require some probably some modifications to the zoning and talk a little bit about kind of where we go from here. So with that, I guess I will pass that over to Eric and he can kind of step through some of the things we've been looking at. And then if Robert joins, I'm sure we'll hear from him as well.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, this is not meant to be a lecture by any means. So we only have about 5 or 6 slides, and feel free to jump in. Again, we kind of envisioned this as a discussion tonight. What I thought we would do is just spend a second to go through what was permitted. So this is the site plan that you see on the screen here. Highland Ave running left to right, Gould Street running up and down on the corner. And as Tim mentioned, we had kind of 2 buildings, a north building that was 5 stories, and a south building that stepped down towards Highland Ave that was 3 stories. There was this 2-story connecting atrium between the 2 buildings. And then tucked back into the kind of back corner of the site off of TV Place was the structured parking garage. You likely remember that there was an emphasis placed on activation of this corner. And so we had some ground floor retail, about 10,000 square feet or so, had kind of an outdoor plaza, public realm that really stretched all the way around the site. We had a walking trail that was about a half mile long all the way around the perimeter of the site, some open space along Gould Street, some pickleball courts. Just to remind you what the 3D kind of looked like, this is a view floating basically over Wingate. So Gould Street here running left to right on the plan. This was that 2-story atrium that connected the south building with the north building. Again, kind of prioritizing the height towards the center or back corner of the site, and then stepping down to 3 stories and ultimately 1 story actually with some of the retail at that corner. And what we had at the time of the special permit was about 480,000 square feet of office, life science
Excuse
lab.
me, Eric, excuse me, could you speak up a little bit, please? Thank you.
So we had about 480,000 square feet of office lab program, about 10,000 square feet of ground floor retail, a little under 1,400 parking stalls that were primarily placed in the structured garage here at the corner, and then 1 and 2 levels of below grade parking that stretched underneath the building. And you can see again kind of that idea of the public realm that stretched from the retail plaza at the corner of Gould and Highland, and then became the pickleball courts. It was a pavilion, and then that walking path that made its way all around the site. This is another view, again, just as a reminder, now kind of floating up above Highland Ave here, Gould Street on the left. The idea that, the massing kind of stepped down to that 3-story scale. It's kind of a smaller punch window articulation of the facade, trying to not have it be this big glassy building, although there were some portions of glass at the corners. And then this retail plaza here at the corner, I think the idea was that it would be kind of community focused, smaller scale shops that would help to activate that corner. People arriving by car to the site would primarily enter in off of Gould Street at the curb cut opposite the Wingate intersection. You likely remember that there was a road widening along Gould Street, which took away some of the property on our side. There's a new traffic light intersection at the Gould Street entry into our site. And then there were some surface parking spaces that were envisioned to be for kind of visitors or short term, maybe could be for some of the retail support as well. And as Tim mentioned, I don't know if Robert or Mark, if Robert has joined by now, but
I am here, but keep going, Eric. You're doing fine.
I think there's been a lot of market challenges, not only lack of life science tenants, but in general, just the cost of construction, interest rates that have made development of this site challenging over the past year plus. So we're starting to, explore other potential uses that might work well and fit on this site. And, some of them are components that were previously envisioned on the site, including kind of retail, but we've opened up the potential, at least internally, for considering residential use, perhaps changing the office lab program to a medical office, been considering senior housing, kind of 55 plus model, and also potential hotel use. So these are, again, just kind of wide end of the funnel. We're just starting to explore some of these different programs. We put together a conceptual option just to be able to show you something and get your feedback and thoughts. This option prioritizes housing across the site. It really tries to take that residential scale and character and stretch it along Gould Street and then turn the corner along Highland Ave. At the corner of the off ramp here, we've placed the medical office, which will have great visibility towards 128. And, I think one of the things that's really different about the potential of this type of use is that the residential building footprint is much different than an office lab building footprint. It's in general a much thinner expression in terms of its massing. It's about 65 feet in width compared to an office lab building, which is closer to 135 or 150 feet in width. And then the scale of the facade and the articulation of the facade is something that is obviously much more known to folks, especially across the street where there's a residential character already. Along Highland Ave, one of the benefits of this option is that we're actually able to break the length of the facade across Highland Ave. Previously, the bar really extended from the corner of Highland and Gould all the way back to the off-ramp. And here we've created a little pocket park. In this scheme, we've also eliminated the structured parking garage, which we think is a nice benefit. So there's a kind of central parking zone at the middle of the site, so people visiting for retail could park and walk in around the corner here, or perhaps around the corner on this side. In this iteration, we've placed the senior housing 55 plus at this corner, so 135 to 160 units. Again, trying to keep the taller massing 5 stories kind of internal, and then stepping down to a 3-story expression across Highland and Gould. We would still keep the same curb cut at the Wingate intersection. And then just north of that, we've proposed a potential hotel use, which could have 100 to 125 keys. Again, stepping from kind of like a 5-story down to a 3-story massing. And then more traditional market rate building at the back corner of the site where TV Place is located, and that's about 200 to 250 units. And as I mentioned before, the medical office at the corner for 75 to 100,000 square feet. So, sorry for.
I think at this point, I'll just interject, Eric, and thank you for stepping in. Ladies and gentlemen, as those of you that don't know me or haven't met me, I'm Robert Schlager, one of the principals with Bullfinch, and the one who has shepherded this project the past 4 years through permitting and, of course, acquisition.
Turn the volume up in
potential
here.
develop.
Robert, can you pause for a
the
second? We just need
volume's
to
really
tweak the audio.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the room's audio because I can hear him perfectly fine. So I think it's
Actually,
the
we
room.
can hear you perfect. We can hear you perfectly fine. Natasha.
Maybe I talk too loud.
No, never. No, exactly. Eric and Robert were on
we
the
able
low end.
to-
of this stuff.
Sorry.
Can you hear us now, Artie?
Just give us a second,
That's a
Robert.
little better, Robert, but again, Natasha's fine.
Is there something we can do to raise the volume in the speaker in
I've
the room?
asked Mark,
Oh.
I don't know anything beyond that.
Again, Natasha's fine. She's coming over the same wires that the other guys are.
Just give us a
So
second.
Robert and Eric, just raise your volume up about 30%, 20%, something like that. Boost it up a little bit on your end.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That's better.
Better, yeah,
That's
that's
better.
better.
Is that better?
That's better,
Yes.
Robert. Yep.
Okay, you can hear us now? Okay. So it just as a quick summary, what we're trying to do is explore alternative uses. The uses that we're presently permitted for, as Eric pretty much articulated, is roughly 500,000 square feet of office, life science, lab, general office, corporate headquarters. There haven't been any corporate headquarter type tenants in the market of recent that we've been able to certainly court with. There hasn't been much interest at all. As many of you are aware, the life science business has pretty much dried up across the entire United States, not just in Massachusetts. So we thought rather than leave a graveyard type of large parcel of land at the entrance to the community, we would explore alternative uses. Medical office seems to be very active, certainly with the advent of Children's Hospital opening in January of 26. There might be some opportunities there. In terms of housing, there's always a demand for housing. We understand the sensitivities with the school system and the sensitivities on the load associated with housing on the town, and we're certainly willing to explore those potential uses and the impacts to the town. I know there's been some preliminary studies over the years as to what the town can accommodate in terms of school population and the like, and obviously we'll rekindle those studies once again. Most of the housing that we're suggesting be senior type of housing, perhaps it's assisted living, perhaps it's some form of a memory care facility, perhaps it's some form of physical therapy, perhaps it's something along those type of lines. Market rate housing, we're suggesting somewhere around 250 units. That would be in the back end of the site, or should I say the northerly end of the site, where we do have that height and zoning flexibility. And of course, a hotel. We're also exploring hotel type of concept. So we're looking to you to help us develop this so-called vision as the gateway to Needham and allow this property to be developed as a flagship entry to the town and something that we can all be proud of. I know it's different from when we started a few years back, but unfortunately the world has changed and we need to adapt with that change. So with that said, I think I'd like to open it up to the board and see what type of suggestions or comments or input you might have for us to make this a successful development.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Slager. I appreciate it. A question I have is, talking about 55 plus, and I heard you mention, assisted living, memory care. I didn't hear you mention independent living.
I missed it, Artie. Good catch.
Okay, so independent living. And one thing that's always on my mind is that some type of ownership. So what ownership options are you considering?
So I think it's premature to suggest the type of ownership options. What I can tell you is we'll certainly explore whatever is feasible. If there's a demand for home ownership, we'll certainly explore it with interest rates at 6.5% to 7%. I would suggest there's probably not a lot of interest in ownership at this time. But then again, by the time the project is built, interest rates could be materially different. So if there's an opportunity for home ownership, we'll certainly explore it and pursue it. On the apartment level or perspective, perhaps there's some ability to do a combination and offer one portion of the development as home ownership if available, and the other portion as rental housing, assisted living, independent living, or the like. Waterstone has a very successful project in Wellesley, much smaller scale, obviously, but that's certainly something that has done well and proven in the area and has a great track record. So that's something that we can explore as well.
Will you tell me again about that project in Wellesley? You're saying a successful project. What is the project exactly in Wellesley?
Waterstone, you know where the CVS is in Wellesley Hills? Newton Lower Falls, Wellesley Hills, the border was built about 10, 12 years ago. There's a similar project in Cleveland Circle that was built maybe 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And those are assisted living, independent living type of communities that have a proven track record and success locally.
Okay. And I remember, going back, several years ago now, talking about, and I thank you for using that word, the gateway to Needham. So, I've thought about that often as far as this being a gateway to Needham. And, a lot of that has to do with perhaps what's in there, but also it has to do with visually what it looks like. So, personally for myself, I think this is like the last refuge in Needham, where we can do something like that. So I would hope that would be kind of a key of what you guys are looking at as well, visually what this is going to look like. I know we're not talking about that right now. I just want to throw that out there. I also just throw out there that we're here, the board, talking to you about this. It will be important for you to do what you had done last time, and that is reach out to the neighborhoods, to the neighbors around there, and just get their input. I know, you're at preliminary stages. Maybe now time's not right. Maybe time is right now. But I mean, because they're going to be playing a big part when we eventually get something that we're going to have a real hearing about. They'll be a big part of it. So I just encourage you to keep that in mind as we're going through this process before we go too far. Kind of engage them. So go ahead, Robert.
I'm sorry, just as we did last time, we absolutely will begin that process. Our intent tonight was to hear the thoughts of the planning board members, feedback from the planning board members prior to embarking on that process. So your input is helpful to us, but rest assured, we will do the right thing and begin the neighborhood dialogue that we had with the original project 4 years ago. And we will, of course, present to you beautiful renderings and drawings and the like of the proposed project. And we look at this as a joint venture, a partnership, and arranged marriage between us going forward. So we want to be as proud of this project as you as members of the planning board are, and of course the neighborhood as well.
So I see a number of things up here, at least there were 4 or 5 up there right now. Just kind of throwing a lot of stuff up there because you just want to get, an initial feeling of what reaction from us. Because I wasn't expecting a hotel, for example, you to put a hotel in that space. So is that a serious consideration? You just want a reaction, or what are you looking for example?
Just feedback, Artie, whatever the planning board's thoughts are with respect to the potential for a hotel at that site, whether it's 50 rooms, 100 rooms, so 125 rooms, somewhere in that range, similar to the Marriott Hotel that's next door in the Needham Industrial Center that was built about 15 years ago. This would be on a similar scale, something that everyone can be proud of and take advantage of for the local people that are either visiting Children's Hospital or members of the community, the neighborhood, looking for friends, relatives, guests, children, and the like to stay locally. There hasn't been a new hotel constructed in Needham for the last 25 years or so, other than the small scale Marriott at the in the industrial center.
Just one more comment, then I'll open up to the board. So I see you mentioned the hotel or even the living sections, the 3 to 5 stories, and I know the original one had that 3, then step back to 5, but it was never 5 really close to Gould Street. So in this particular case, you're pushing the 5 closer to Gould Street, and
That's
I'm
correct.
I'm fairly certain we were I know personally myself, I was looking to push that back. That being said, I don't know how many floors Wingate is across the street right now. So I honestly don't know it. I don't think it's 5, but I'm not sure right now.
No, it's not. So what our thought process was as part of this relook approach is to modify the zoning that limits the height from a commercial lab life science building. The height floor to floor, so-called deck to deck, is roughly 13 foot 6 inches. The height deck to deck on a residential building would be, or an independent living or assisted living building, would be roughly 10 feet deck to deck. So when you describe stories, the stories are materially less with a residential component as opposed to a commercial component. So in terms of height, the height has changed a little bit, but it's not significant. Eric, if you could calculate just roughly 5 stories on the commercial.
Closer to five stories for the residential would be closer to 60 feet. 5 stories on the commercial would be easily 70 feet, if not more. So you'd probably save about 10 feet in height.
Okay, thank you guys. Let me open up to the rest of the board. Adam, would you like to go?
I have a few questions. Do we have oh, sorry. Thanks, Alex. Do you have a sense, Robert, or anyone else on your team, what the hotel vacancy is currently like in the existing hotels in Needham? Is the vacancy at 10 or 15%, and that's kind of core with industry average, or is there less demand for hotels in Needham right now and it's closer to 80% vacant?
So the honest answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I would
Fair.
So that to comp to, for example, the Sheraton at the top of Hillside, was a hotel built, almost 40 odd years ago. So the dating of that hotel really distinguishes it apart from some of the others. The Marriott Hotel that's in the industrial center, it was intended to support the industrial center, but I can get you that information. We happen to know the operator of that hotel very well.
It's really just, I guess what I'm looking at is getting a sense from you of what you see as the strongest market interest for this site.
I think multifamily, as it stands today, there is a component of senior housing that's always missing. I'm not sure the senior housing component can qualify or quantify all of the units that we're proposing, but certainly, somewhere between 150 odd units or so, there should be sufficient demand to accommodate over 55 clientele.
So are you thinking of right now we allow by special permit under our zoning bylaw, given other regulatory requirements, up to 240 units? Are you thinking under this model of a full mixed site to have roughly 240 units in total of housing plus medical office and or a hotel, or are you thinking closer to 500 units in total?
Closer to 500 units in total. It would be very difficult, given the purchase price paid for the site, the infrastructure that would be required, and the success of the project, to have only 150 or 200 units of housing. That doesn't make financial sense.
I understand. And my next question is, under the, as Eric laid out, a prior approved plan, I think it was roughly 480,000 square feet of development. And I think our bylaw allowed somewhere close to 500. At its maximum potential, either in this configuration or another, what would you estimate, Eric, to be the total square footage of development?
I think it's less than what was previously conceived. We'll have to run the numbers, and maybe at the future planning board meeting, we could give a little bit of a spreadsheet. This is so early and so conceptual.
Yeah, sure.
We
I understand.
dug into that level. We have started to look at parking too. That was one of the things I forgot to
That was
mention.
my next question.
Yeah, the previously approved scheme had about 1,400 spaces. We think with this mix of program, we could have it be closer to 750 to 1,000 spaces
pause
across
you?
the total site. Yeah.
Can I pause you there? What's the parking ratio per unit of residential housing?
We were looking at a potential one space per unit for the market rate.
On the market rate, the multifamily.
And then the senior housing maybe could be less. Medical office, we had at 5 per thousand per current zoning. Retail at, I want to say 3.3 per thousand, which I also believe is current zoning. But again, we're at the wide end of the funnel here, so these are kind of early numbers.
So it would be helpful to get some. The town is contemplating revising the parking standards in our regulation. So I'd be interested in hearing more of what the actual parking demand would be under a proposed development as you're contemplating different concepts. If you're going to go down, so this site is fairly isolated to public transit. If you are going to go down to one per unit, and certainly on a one-bedroom unit, our bylaw lays out a certain minimum standard. For instance, currently, Tim, you may be familiar that under the multifamily component, a minimum of 40% and a maximum, I think, of 70% of the units of the 240 currently in our bylaw be one bedroom. And in a scenario where you have a number of one bedrooms, that one parking space, for those units makes sense. And if you're contemplating changing the program and composition of the number of studios, ones, twos, et cetera, which is fine, I encourage you to do that. I just think that we would need to really provide, access to public transit, in a very regular way. Because I think that's, it's going to be, it's a great way to get some congestion out of the area, number one. And number two, we'll have to look very carefully at your parking study, but we want to make sure that, parking is sufficient on the one hand, and on the other hand, we're still trying to get as many cars out of the area as possible, within reason to the program.
So Adam, excuse me for interrupting. One of the things that we have explored, and Sean Manning from VHB is on the phone now, is the shuttle bus concept that we had originally proposed as part of our original development proposal on the life science side. And that would be several shuttle buses, electric, of course, that would circle the area to and from the T station, and that would be part of our mitigation to reduce the parking on a multifamily concept. So we've not forgotten about that. That's number 2 on our priority list with respect to commuter habits. And we think we have that well managed or well conceived. But Sean's on the phone and happy to answer, I'm sure, any questions anyone may have.
I'm satisfied with that, Robert. My other comment relates to the placing of hotel. I think if there is going to be, a potential hotel use in the area, and we don't know what the community, thinks on this, but if we are going to consider a hotel, and look, I think the whole point of this meeting is to consider all options, which is a reasonable, prudent thing to kick off a planning process. We are going to contemplate a hotel use. I would think to put the hotel in terms of placement on the site as close to the bowl as possible and away from Gould Street as much as possible. I think we'd have a fairly active and very attractive urban edge along Highland Avenue, and a nice active looking edge along Gould if we had the residential there, and then we kind of keep the commercial uses a bit further back, which may open up opportunities for parking, for the retail and for the hotel kind of towards the back of the back of the site, which might improve traffic flow, both pedestrian and vehicular, within the site itself. I think this is, I know it's a tough place in the market right now, and I hope that we're able to come into a process that can achieve a reasonable outcome. I have 2 remaining questions. What would your goal be in terms of a zoning bylaw change? What would your preference be? When do you think when would you ideally have zoning up for town meeting approval?
So the plan is to, as I mentioned earlier, initiate the process with the planning board as we're starting this evening. And we would promptly proceed to develop neighborhood meetings and begin that process as well. And assuming that process was supportive and all went generally smoothly, and we know we're not going to have 100% support, but hopefully we'll have 85 to 90% support. The next step would be to come back to the planning board, have the planning board conceptually bless it, and then begin to initiate a zoning amendment in the fall, and hopefully culminate that process by next summer around this time. And then, of course, start construction sometime in the fall, certainly by the winter of 2027.
Okay, so just to put that in terms of our planning calendar, we are, our next kick at the can would be October for town meeting, which is impossible given the infancy of the process. Potentially for May, but it might more realistically be October of 2026 for a zoning bylaw change, which would give you a little over 12 months to solidify your public engagement process, and then the planning process, public hearings, and so on. Is that timing kind of in line with what you would look at? You would look at?
So it's generally consistent, except we'd like to try and be able to get in front of town meeting sometime in May, a year from now, so
Okay.
that we could be in a position, as I said earlier, to start construction
Sure.
certainly January 2027.
And
Next year is
but
2026.
Yeah, good, but we would go through the process by May of 2026. By the
Construction.
time it gets documented, it's July of
Nice.
2026. By the time things are underway, it's January of
I
27,
understand.
December of
And-
26.
So just
And
to
I would just add to that, if I could, Adam, that, while there are definitely some changes here, there's a lot to be built on with what was currently approved by way of impacts and site design and all that stuff. So I think that the zoning amendment would be more of surgical sort of changes to the bylaw that exists, as opposed to starting from whole cloth. So I do think that, if we're diligent in getting our public meetings and our informal discussions in our neighborhoods, I do think May is feasible, just given the scope of what we'd be doing.
I actually tend to agree with that, Tim, because it sounds like you're looking to stay within the existing dimensional regulations, generally speaking. So you're talking about a modification of the use, and then, we would definitely require an impact study to, in terms of traffic and stormwater management, properly fleshed out the way you guys did before to really understand the impact on the uses. And the sooner you're, into that, once you've developed your program, the faster we'll be able to get at, what would be really the crux of the issue, and to game out your May 2026 plan. We would have to complete the hearing process and the warrant by February. Is that right? So the zoning would really need to be in tip-top form sometime by, the end of December.
We'd have to be having our public meetings coming out and going on in the fall, late summer and the fall
Of this year.
of this year.
I mean, yeah, ideally early fall. I mean, they've got the summer
Yeah,
to work on the program. So that was my question in terms of process. The other question that I had, and it's, probably up to you, Artie, as chair, but, we're not required, this is not a public hearing. We're not required tonight to, to take public testimony. Would you want initial feedback from the public now on some of these things if the chair was interested in that? And we just limited people to talk maybe for a minute and a half each?
That's a question for you, Robert.
Whatever you prefer, Artie, I'm fine with that.
Okay, before we go anything in that direction, just a couple of things, and then Justin's going to just a couple of minor things, and that is, you're talking about 55 plus, and you're saying potentially less than one per. So, so you have less than one per, so we better have some public transportation going on here. And just to keep things Needham-centric for a second, I mean, I love Newton, they're awesome, but Needham has a commuter rail. So instead of going that way towards Newton, why don't you go this way towards Needham? I'm voting for that one, Robert, but anyway, that's giving Needham a little plug there. The other thing is that there's been some concern, and this concern comes from the units, the rental units that are over on the other side of 128, and that is, the police have been called there a fair amount. Let's just say that. They've been called there a fair amount, and they're all rental units. And then here we have, 55 plus, but then we have a fairly, decent sized rental component. So there is, I know there's concern in some of the community in that area related, maybe more than that area, related to the fact that there is a crime, how to put it bluntly, there's a crime rate related to that. And the police have been called there quite a bit. And this is symmetrical of that, simply the other side of 128. So I have concerns about that, so that's where I'm going with that one. I like ownership options. I know you're concerned about where the interest rates are. I like ownership options.
I hear you loud and clear with respect to the crime, as you know, we are men of our word here at Bullfinch, and we'll follow up on it. We take copious notes of what people say, and I think everyone will agree that we followed up on every single concern and issue that came up in the past, and we'll do it again. We'll report back on our findings.
Okay, Justin.
Just a couple things. One, I would probably suggest, it's up to you, Mr. Chair, but from a public perspective, if email comments, because if you look at how many people are on here right now, this wasn't even a marketed, this wasn't intended to be a public hearing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if everyone emails planning at the planning email address.
Planning at Needham.
Thank you.
MA.
And obviously that will incorporate, we'll get in the agenda packets, we'll get every single comment that's done. And then we can also forward over any comments to you guys for your formulation of, your public engagement and design. And I don't think I want to have my book next to you, because I think you stole pretty much everything I said. Traffic, stormwater, parking. I do like the mixed use case model. I do support it. Can you hear? I'll leave it. I do like the senior housing component, market rate housing. I do support a hotel. Obviously, it depends upon vacancy rates. That's a very valid point. I do think it's this time around we need to be extra vigilant about traffic impact around the area, both within traffic movement within the actual space itself, as well as on Gould and the impacts that come from that. I do like the idea of even the hotel entrance being closer to being on Highland Ave as opposed to Gould. I think that we really need to be vigilant about how we what the impact will be. Transit, I think that's really important. I like the model of being able to, and we have to make sure that that's sustainable, because I think everyone loves when they come to propose an idea. Then transit's great for, they have a shuttle bus working for a year and then it goes away. So we need to figure out a way from a sustainability plan for transit. And I think other than, I don't want to reiterate Adam's comments that were, I thought, mine. I think we're good. I think I'll.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Eric.
Thank you for the presentation. Just a quick question on the parking for senior housing. I could understand a less than one per if it were assisted living, similar type of facility, but for 55 plus, is the thinking also for less than one per for if it was 55 plus?
No, for 55 plus, there would be 1 per 1,000.
Okay.
I'm sorry, one per unit.
And then the retail, and I echo the comments of the other board members about liking the sort of mixed village kind of concept here. I've noticed that retail in both the conceptual designs, and I know these are very preliminary, very, very early stage, retail is on the lower end, 10,000 square feet, I think maybe 25,000 square feet. What's the sort of like the early thinking of what the retail would be? Would it be something for the broader community or purely supplementing, complementary to the use at the site?
Sure. So the retail would not change from what we had originally contemplated. And the objective is to provide a restaurant, and I should limit it to a restaurant in terms of a breakfast, ma pa, pancake store, a pancake restaurant. Perhaps it's the local community husband-wife type of morning breakfast, opens at 6 and closes around 6 or 7 at night. Certainly nothing with an alcohol ABCC type of license. A late night nightclub, something like that is not something that we're contemplating. Something to support the development, whether it be commercial, residential, or a mix thereof, for lunches, dry cleaner, shoe cobbler, beauty salon, hair salon, all items that are community related. And just to touch on the square footage, The challenge with a site like this for retail is that high demand retail isn't going to work at this site, in our opinion, because it's not a destination oriented site. If someone wants to go shopping for retail, they're going to go to Sudbury Farms or the retail stores on Great Plain Avenue. They're not likely to come to a 30 or 35,000 square foot group of retail shops here.
Thank you. And then just to reiterate a point that's been made, certainly traffic is going to be a concern that you're going to hear. I'm also looking at the two plans that were shown. Is it just going to be sort of one point of egress, egress, or have you looked at potential like creative ways to sort of mitigate some of the traffic that we're going to have on Gould Street? And there's certainly going to be a concern that this project is going to filter traffic to make a right off of Gould Street and to go towards Central.
Sure. So I'll let Sean answer the specifics, but just as a reminder, as part of our traffic mitigation plan, which is likely not to change or to be impacted from the revised development concept, is a widening of Gould Street. There is only one entryway in. Thanks, Eric. Got perfect slide. Back up one or zoom in. As you can see, Sean, do you want to run through the traffic improvements we had proposed and identify yourself since you just joined?
Happy to. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sean Manning at VHB. So you're looking at the approved projects, and we were doing a number of things. And maybe we can let's start at Highland and Gould and kind of work from there. So as Robert has intimated, the approved project has extensive improvements to support the project, but also just kind of support traffic conditions, understanding this is a gateway location to Needham off of the highway. We want to manage traffic flow, but we also are really trying to improve mobility comprehensively. Obviously, you get sort of out of town and you get over to 128 in the interchange, it's got a very fast track kind of feel to it. And we're really trying to improve the cyclist conditions, give them infrastructure and amenities, provide some terrific improved pedestrian amenities, and deal with the traffic. So significant improvements at Highland and Gould. And I won't go through all the gory details, but again, to Robert's point, we're not looking to change anything in connection with this proposed change. A main entrance at Gould that will line up with the neighboring assisted living across the street. So that will be an aligned intersection. That would be signalized. And then what I would call a more secondary outlet, in particular for those folks that are looking to go north and west. So if you lived in Dover or Natick, or you're trying to make your way to Central Avenue, that's the way you're going to go in and out, which is via TV Place. And one of the things that we would need to do as this proposal, let's say gels and solidifies, if this is what we're going to move forward with normally, is understand the traffic generating characteristics of this new idea versus the approved project. And we haven't quantified that yet, but my sense, just as I do this all the time, is that the quantified impacts are likely to go down a bit, even though the infrastructure that's going to be put in place is going to stay the same. So, I think we're in a decent place from a traffic generating standpoint, but of course we need to do the work and tease that out and bring that forth to the town so that you understand all that.
Thank you, Sean. One other response comment to your question, and that is that I want to make one thing very clear. We have spoken with Mass, Eric, can you zoom out just a little bit? We've spoken with Mass Highway Department on numerous occasions. They will not allow an access way to this site from neither the 128 on-ramp, as you exit 128, or should I say off-ramp, nor will they allow it on Highland Avenue. So there can be no additional curb cuts to Highland Ave for safety reasons, and of course on MH property, Mass Highway Department on the 128 exit off-ramp. So I hope that answers your question, Justin, if you're the one who had asked that question. I forget, since I lost the photo image of the board member making that ask.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions. One is, in looking at, I suppose, comparison, looking at old to new.
Yeah, can I?
Jeez, thanks, Ed.
So so a couple of questions. I'm not gonna repeat what other people have said, but just a couple of questions is the parking. So it seems like you have 750 to 1,000 spaces, but you don't have a parking garage. So are you doing underground parking?
Yes,
We have
partially. Yes.
partially and also podium parking on the rear market rate housing building.
And Natasha, I should have
Yeah.
assumed that question would come from you, and I did. So I have my answer prepackaged, and that is the reason why the hotel is where it is and the market rate housing is where it is because, as you may recall, the site slopes downward toward the 128 off ramp on the
Right.
northeast corner. So if you look at that location, there's room to bury a level of parking underneath, and that's why we have that oriented toward that direction. As you also know, the cost of a above grade structured parking deck today runs about $60,000 to $70,000 a space. Underground parking, since we're going to be excavating minimally to accommodate the grade change, runs about $90,000 to $100,000 a space. So the delta justifies losing that area underneath the building for underground parking.
Okay, great. Okay, my second question is regarding the loop. It seems like you're keeping the loop that you had originally as an amenity, the loop that goes around
The jogging trail.
the
Correct.
jogging trail.
Right.
And so that will remain as it was before. Okay.
Yes.
And then I think the scale of the housing, as you can see by these areas here, the scale of the housing, then the width of the 65 is more in tune with the rest of it. So I appreciate that. And let me see what else here. And then, I'm going to ask this one also. There's a park, there was a park in this location, 7,000 square feet of park that was an amenity. I know, there's no room for the pickle courts and all these things that you had because you had set the building back because it was a larger footprint. But is there an opportunity for this amenity to still be part of, kind of community space?
Yes, remember, it's only 7,000 square feet. So we'd be happy to work with the town's leadership in terms of coming up with a use on that space. And if we can put a pickleball court there or two, we're happy to try and do that as well.
Or just even a park would be great.
Yeah.
I think everyone else covered what I was going to ask, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Geez, I didn't get beat up too badly.
You thought I was going to be the one because I'm. But I don't want to repeat what other people have said, but I just think I think what you need to be mindful of, parking, stormwater, and and community input is very important. So
Can I put you on the spot? How do you
Sure.
feel about the zoning setback, sliding that line a little bit forward to give us some more flexibility on the height, given that it's a lesser deck to deck height?
I think that you need a section cut through here and to understand it, through a section cut through, because I know that this is also about 3.5 stories or
Yes.
so. And I think because this is lower, you can compare it to what you had before, which was a lot higher because, as you said, the 10 feet to 10 feet makes it smaller. Just the footprint in general, of these things being 65 feet versus 170 or 160 feet I think make a huge difference in feeling that the scale gets smaller. But we do need to see views in this location and views from this location to be able to understand the proportion compared to the residential, which is here, right? Because you had this as it was as a one level at this corner. And
Yeah.
then, sorry that I'm marking it up, but
No.
I can't
Yep.
help myself. This is what I do all day long. And so just understanding what the section cut is through, I mean, you have buildings of similar proportion here and here. So it feels more in tune with what's in the area in this particular corner, but understanding, what the section of it looks like and what the views look like will be really important.
Programming wise, does the programming seem reasonable to you?
I think it seems reasonable. I don't know enough about hotel vacancy and all of that, but I think everybody asks those questions. I think the program seems reasonable to have housing, senior housing, looking at opportunities for, ownership and affordable housing would be great once you start penciling things out.
Artie?
You all set? Yeah, you all set, Natasha?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
So the question I have, so you're talking about parking, underground parking. I think I heard you talk about some potential under the market rate. What about parking for the 55 plus? Where's that going to be?
So that's a combination of surface parking, Artie, and locationally, depending upon where we locate that particular building, there will be some underground parking below that building as well.
Okay, so,
Not where the retail is, but more toward the center of the site. I would refer to the northeast corner.
Northeast corner. So underground parking for the 55 plus would be the northeast corner?
Yes, some of the parking would be underground, underneath the building, and the balance of the parking would be at grade. Again, we're still in the preliminary stages. One of the reasons we located the medical office building on the corner of the off-ramp Highland was to be able to take advantage of the grade drop. Similarly, with the market rate housing, we can probably get a tray and a half and maybe even a tray and 3/4 of underground parking underneath that structure.
Okay, just wanted to confirm, because so it sounds like there's no underground parking really related to the 55 plus without anything for them would be under other buildings, correct? That's what you're saying right now?
No, the below grade parking actually extends underneath the surface parking that you see here, and it would have its own direct elevator into the 55 plus. So
it would be access ramps, Artie.
Thank you. The other thing is, green, I'm going to use the word green space. I mean, maybe it is the same, but the other plan seemed to have visually a lot more open space, green space. It had a couple of water features. I know you mentioned that the walking path is still there, but it seemed to have a lot more green space. So I'm concerned about lack of green space.
That is a valid concern. The previous plan had significantly more green space.
Yeah, so I'm concerned about that. And there's going to be a lot of people living there, and there's not, fine, there's a walking path, but there's nothing else there, at least outside right now. Maybe there's a little park over there. So I'm a little concerned about that. I know that there's, market rate housing. I'm not sure what's going to be there as far as types of families. I can imagine if there's 2-bedroom, I can imagine there'll be some kids there. So then that raises the question, what about something for the kids? Is there a donut in the middle of that building? Was it a playground, for example? What's going on with that?
Yes, there is a playground. There's also dog walking trails and other amenities we'll get into with the next submission.
Yeah. So again, I'm just concerned about green space and making sure that, and again, visuals. I mean, green space and visuals. I know it's not going to look just like that, but maybe it won't be that far away from that. And so it needs to work for the public visually. Obviously, who's there, the makeup has to work, but also visually. It's the gateway. You've said it. I've said it. A lot of people have said it. It's the gateway. It has to look like the gateway. You need it. Adam.
Thanks, Artie. I just have a couple of final comments. One is, as we're talking about different programs, I tend to agree with you, understanding the residential market, that it's probably not going to be ownership structure, that it probably would be multifamily rental. Just bear, although, the market will determine that, but if it is residential, just be mindful that in our bylaw, we have a minimum requirement of 12.5% be affordable. And we'd probably want to see some attribution of that, or, towards even the senior housing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how detailed you're getting into your program for the senior housing component, although we may not make it a regulatory requirement, it would be good to see some level of affordability for the senior housing, depending on the type of senior housing. Obviously, if you're providing more services, that's less of a possibility, but just something to factor in. The other thing to factor in terms of scale on Gould Street, and Natasha, you might have been alluding to this, I think we'd want to ensure that from a visibility point of view, that on the west and east side of Gould, that there is some continuity of height preserved. I know you're looking to try and move that envelope, that line. In terms of height, it probably does make sense if there are, if we're looking at height by feet instead of height by stories, there may be some flexibility. I'm open to that. And lastly, or two last comments that I have. One is, you should also include when you're doing your, your revised traffic study and your revised stormwater management study, you should also have an updated fiscal impact study. That's obviously going to be a significant contributing factor, to the impact on the town in the long run. So that'll be a very important part of the diligence that you provide. And lastly, it looks, and I'm not asking for a comment on this, I'm just going to make an observation, and your engineers will, perfect it in the program. But it does look like there may be more impervious surface here than in the previous layout. So we'll look to see how that's managed effectively without adverse impact to the residents like you did before in your previous stormwater management plan. So we'll just want to see that as well. That's all I had. Thank you.
Justin, anything else? Erica, Natasha, anything else?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
I would recommend, given that this is not a public hearing, that for all of those that are with us tonight in the room that are here for, for this agenda item, to please email your comments, and for those that are online on Zoom.
I don't have homework. Yeah, because, I mean, I appreciate what Justin said, how many people there. I appreciate what you were saying earlier, and I was contemplating what to do. Given that there's an awful lot's been said here, and given that there's going to be a short time frame, if we want this thing made, there's going to be a short time frame. I'm going to allow 10 minutes of comment, and very short comment for each person, very short,
Right.
if something they want to say. So I'm gonna
Artie,
allow-
excuse me, Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Because that was not,
Mhm.
publicized, are we allowed
Yep.
to do that?
I'm going to do that. I think I can do that. I'm going to allow it. Because, there's been an awful lot been said here with an awful lot from the developer. So I'm going to allow the public to comment for 10 minutes. And Rob, you're up first. And again, only 10 minutes, very short.
Artie, before anyone speaks, you should provide the ground rules. Like
Oh,
we
yeah, the
normally
ground rules are, you have to give your name, address, and, are you a resident of the town? Are you, your address will take care of that. And again, very short, 2 minutes, and there may not be any answers, because we want to hear from what you have to say, and that's it. Rob?
Mr. Chair?
Again, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. Rob Dangle, Hewitt Circle, Needham. I am a resident. My neighborhood kind of abuts this area off of Noanet. Just initial impression, I'm definitely in favor of developing this site. It's long overdue. This, to me, looks like throwing the kitchen sink at it, and obviously it's very preliminary, so you can't really pass judgment on it. I don't speak for the neighborhood, but just as a resident, if you're looking for residential feedback, any kind of transient type of thing so close to residential neighborhoods, I personally would be opposed. So hotel wouldn't be something that I'd be looking for. There's plenty of demand for senior housing in Needham. I think that's been abundantly made clear to us by many residents over the years and all the hot debate that we've had. I would like to see personally more senior housing component here and less of the market rate, just to meet that demand. And I think that would have a follow-on effect of kind of freeing up inventory in Needham for those that we've been talking about want to downsize. This would provide a really nice opportunity. I also would like to see more retail in here. I think that, being a neighbor to this property, if there were more dining options on this site, it would be something that we would see as a destination, as something we would be interested in. I know there's lots of families in the neighborhoods that would walk to this and make it more of a more active site. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Anyone else in the audience that'd like to say something for a
Anyone
minute?
on Zoom?
Yeah, anyone on Zoom that would like to say something for a minute? Any comment? There's a couple. Again, make it very short, very specific, please. Alex, you want to pick?
She's working on it.
Maybe ask him to stop sharing so we can see the person.
when they come
Yeah,
over?
could you stop, yeah, Rob, will you stop sharing? And keep in mind, whoever's making the comments, your name, your address, and be careful what's behind you because people are gonna be able to see you. And please have your video going, but please be careful what's behind you. So who's up first, Alex?
It just said iPhone. I don't know.
Is anyone there?
If not, let's move
If
to
not, go into the next one, please.
I think they came over. Yeah, they're, maybe not.
We're going to the next one.
Hey, wanna hear the most annoying sound in the world?
I don't know what that was.
That was my alarm.
Time to get up, Artie.
I know that movie too.
Okay, who's up, Alex? Anyone there? David.
Yes, here we go.
Okay, David, your name, your address, please, and be careful what's behind you.
Absolutely, yes. David Rushka, 21 Rosemary Street. Just very briefly, when I hear numbers being thrown around like $100,000 per parking space, I would really encourage the developer and the planning board to look at other options for ride share, Zipcar or Uber, Lyft, those kinds of options. I mean, I think there's a market out there if you could have units with no parking that are cheaper so that the developer doesn't have to spend $100,000 to provide a parking spot. So I would really, and that will help with traffic, help with the environment. So I really encourage to look more creatively at parking.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone in the audience? Ken, name and address, please.
Certainly. Hi, I'm Ken Buckley. I live at 221 Warren Street. I'm a resident of Needham. I thought a bit about the Muzzy site, certainly want to see it developed. And just in general, very concerned about the traffic on site and really coming off site, on and off site for commuters, for hotels, et cetera. So I just want a very comprehensive study of traffic and how it's going to affect I'm thinking about the signaling, within a block of each other and what that's going to do to the traffic that's trying to use Gould Street as its form of egress out of the neighborhoods and going back in. I think it could really make a mess of things there. So I'm cognizant of trying to, I think, maximize the revenue while minimizing impact to the surrounding community is kind of one thing. And in terms of ideas of on-site, maybe a performing arts center. I actually heard that from a few residents when we were talking about the Muzzy site, because it shifts traffic to a different time of day is one thing that people thought about. And they thought it would be good for the community. And then I don't know whether another retailer or larger retailer like moving the Trader Joe's there because it's so congested where it is, maybe to a larger site. But I'm not pertinent to the revenue streams from all of those. So I'm cognizant of the developers' need to make sure they can run the site profitably as well. So all of those things are just some of the thoughts that are running through my head.
Thank you, Ken.
One final thing, the impact from Newton coming across into Needham, I think is going to blend in. So holistically, it's a larger problem than just what's on site.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else online, Alex? Henry, can you hear us?
Yes, good evening.
Name and address, please.
25 Bennington, Henry Reagan, 25 Bennington Street. I'm trying to adhere to your request, Artie, not to repeat what has just been said, but what the prior speaker just mentioned was prime in my mind about the huge construction that's going on, I don't know, mile and a half at the old Marshalls site in Newton. I think it's at 800 units now. I know that Newton's made some changes recently. That's going to impact traffic. So traffic, as everyone said, is a primary thing. In terms of retail, my experience in over 30 years of retail is retail brings other retail, and that having a small space for retail won't achieve the goal of having, so you won't become a retail center with that amount of retail. The other thing to add is that it would be nice to have more green space in this, both from a visual standpoint and from a standpoint you mentioned about having a dog trail there, something that's more neighborhood friendly, that makes it more part of the neighborhood. But again, to reiterate, the traffic is going to be a whale here, and I think that that's something that needs to get tackled early. And finally, that there are going to be a lot of people in town who are going to want anything to be built here because we are now craving tax revenue as a town. As people talk about the Pollard and the Mitchell, et cetera, people are going to want more taxes coming out of this site. I think we need to be careful that we don't just build it to get the taxes. I know that the planning board wouldn't do that, but I do feel obliged to mention it. And thank you for your time, Marty, and the rest of the board.
Thank you, Henry. We have a time for 2 more. That's it. Anyone else, Alex? So 2 more. This is the first one, then 1 more after this.
Yes, hi, it's Oscar. Am I up next?
Yeah, name and address, please.
Yes, Oscar Mertz, 67 Ryberry Hill Way. Excited to see this back on the table. Thank you for the Bullfinch team to put your heads together and come back. I know we're all much more happy about this as a site that's got action and not inaction. One thought on the housing options. Again, I'm not exactly sure how that hotel pencils out. I've heard some pros and cons for that here on this discussion. The one thing I was curious about, would like to have you maybe look at, is that on the Madera site down the street, there's some interesting townhouse configurations. So there could be something to add to your variety of housing options, maybe even that adds some ownership options. But there could be stacked maybe a 2 over 2. So you had some townhouses on Gould and then maybe put some flats above. So that in that hotel site in particular. So I think that's, it's all good to see. I think the more options for the housing choice is obviously going to be beneficial for the distribution in the market. One final thought would be that I think we all remember that the conversations about the traffic impacts, and as you said, there will be a reduction probably in the overall traffic impacts, and also the uses across the day, I think will be much more beneficial with the residential component, because instead of having a high peak, we also know that the medical office is probably more of a daytime distribution as opposed to a regular office building that has peaks in the morning and the evening, right? So I think this is all a benefit, both the reduction and in the distribution across the day. So I commend you guys for coming back and thinking things through again. And this is exciting to see, and look forward to further progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Appreciate it. 1 more, Alex. Anyone else in the room? Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyone else in the room? No. Okay. Anyone? 1 more online, Alex, and then that's it. There's no one else? Okay. Thank you. So everyone else in the public, so we finished that. We opened it up for a little bit. Please email your comments to the planning board. What is the email address again, Lee?
planning@needhamma.gov.
So planning@needhamma.gov. Please email your comments. We will get them. They will be important as we're reading them and going through this, and they will be forwarded to the Bullfinch group as well. So thank you very much for that. Okay, thank you guys for allowing the indulgence for that. I think it was important to allow something there. Okay, the next up is, we're just about done. So you're all set. So thank you, Robert.
Thank you, gentlemen and
Tim.
ladies.
Thank you, Eric.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you,
time.
Sean. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it very much.
We'll be in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we've gone through the, do we have any minutes?
No. Oh,
We had on the agenda. Was that just that?
yeah,
I didn't see
keep
any
it
minutes.
there.
I didn't see any minutes.
We got a bunch of them
Okay.
in though, I think.
Okay, so no minutes. We've done the
No,
Board
I'm
of,
thinking about Large House, sorry.
okay, we've done the Board of Appeals. report,
Board
what's
correspondence, just 6 and 7 right now.
yeah. So, Lee, what do you have to report?
So I guess everybody knows that the first workshop for the Large House Study Committee is this coming Monday, 7 o'clock. It's at Town Hall. And the meeting's going to be structured to have a presentation by the committee at the beginning of the meeting to present what its charge is, what the composition of the committee is, and to give a brief overview of what Needham's current regulatory framework looks like. And then we're going to break out into a series of workout groups at tables to answer, that will be facilitated by the committee itself to answer a series of 3 questions to kind of figure out how people see the problem of large houses and why they actually came to the meeting and what they would see as potential solutions to the issue. And then we're going to reports back from those groups. And then we're planning on having an open mic session so everybody can talk and communicate their issues and concerns around the issue. So that's great.
And we'll also have a survey.
And we also have a survey that's going to actually go live on Friday of this week. And it will be available at the meeting itself for follow-up. And there's a series of 15 questions, I think, embedded in that survey to kind of augment what information we collect at the public workshop. So I'm hoping that all of you guys will be there.
Yeah, I hope all of us are there.
Monday at, it's in my calendar.
Monday at 7.
Monday at 7.
Monday at 7, yeah.
So you good, right?
My niece is coming in from Canada, so I will be there for as much of it as I can.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyway, Justin, Eric, I won't put you on the spots, and Natasha, please be there if you can. But don't, everyone sit together. Don't do that. And also tomorrow night is the tree hearing, tomorrow night. So that's important as well. It's in some ways a similar format, I suppose, as what we're gonna have on Monday night. So that's tomorrow night. So that's important to pay attention to as well. So hopefully everyone will come to that. And everyone online, pay attention to, also, listen also. We're having the first public hearing of the Large House Review Committee next Monday at 7 p.m. at Powers Hall. So that's at Town Hall. Next Monday at 7, what's it?
And Zoom.
And Zoom, yeah, it'll be available Zoom as well. And then, not to leave them short, not to short them out, but there's the tree public hearing tomorrow night as well. And that's very important, because a lot of people have expressed concerns, interest in what's going on in town. So please try to attend tomorrow night and Monday night as well, both at Powers Hall, both at 7 p.m. Is there anything else we have?
I want to put on the agenda for either the next meeting or the meeting after, a session where we can kind of go through what our goals are. Yeah, and so we can, prioritize what the planning projects are that look like, what they look like over the course of the next.
I mean, I'd like to try to fit it in next meeting.
We have 2 hearings.
I'd like to fit it in that.
We have the kicked hearing from before, right, Whitley?
Are they quick hearings or are they long?
No, I think we have Cogswell that's a continuation, and what was the other one?
But that Cogswell shouldn't be
And
more
we,
than,
and we also have, I think, Children's is coming in for an amendment.
Okay.
what's the substance of their amendment?
They're changing how they want to allocate the monies that they were going to give us for intersection improvements, for traffic mitigation.
Are they looking to reduce it? Change it.
Change it, essentially.
So that's almost.
The
de
big
minimis.
time commitment that night is gonna be the Charles River Center is gonna make an informal presentation about a proposed friendly 40B project.
Can we punt that to a following?
No.
Is this gonna be?
We've met with them, we've had a design review, we've had basically a staff meeting with them, and we've committed.
I get that, but I'm just trying to think through,
And they have a tight timeline, so, they're, in terms of when they're gonna file with the ZBA, and we've committed.
So are they coming to us? I mean, what do we have to vote on? They're coming to us to present. What are we gonna have to vote on eventually? Anything, or is it going straight to the ZBA?
It's gonna go to the ZBA, but as part of the process, they're going to the select board, they're going to the design review board, they're going to the planning board, and they have a whole calendar that they've kind of worked out in terms of when they need to file it with the ZBA and what their funding is. I think they're filing it at the end of the summer.
So we do have a little bit of time. I'm just trying to, I mean, look, I'm not chair, Artie, it's your call, but we talked 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
before we
I'd like to have our schedule that what we want to do as kind of an important priority.
I think what we could do at next meeting, you guys have to be realistic about how long these things are gonna take, but I don't see the, the hearing for the Children's Hospital really being more than.
We can put it on. I just wanted to, I was hoping, I'll be glad to put it on. I just wanted to make sure we had enough time to really get into the weeds on it, but if you want to begin the conversation, that's fine, we can add it.
Yep.
When is the next meeting?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
The 17th, I think. So, but just want to get clarity on the expectations of time for each of the two hearings. The Children's Hospital hearing should take really more than, I would think 25 minutes at most. And then including, the reading of the full, ground rules for public comment, if we normally do that. And then the other one also sounds.
Cogswell.
I know, but we've dealt with most of the issues with that. It's just a
Oh,
clear.
yeah, I mean, the traffic coming back, they were gonna reconfigure their entrance or the exit out of it.
Yeah, so
hopefully they
that's,
would have done
so
that.
that shouldn't be more than 35 minutes if it's managed, I think, effectively. So now,
And then Charles River then would be at 8.
Half hour
well,
for that.
Their it depends. You could limit their presentation and say that, they've got, 10 minutes.
Well, I think 10 minutes would take care of their presentation.
I mean, we dealt with it at town meeting, and I think they did it in, about 10 or 12 minutes.
Okay, we'll add it then.
Yeah, and 10 minutes should do it. I mean, they're not looking for us to vote on funding, type of thing, so that,
They're not looking at us to vote on anything, but it's an opportunity for the planning board to provide, comments. I mean, I've looked at it thoroughly because it came through the conservation, the CPC.
Yeah, CPC, yeah.
And, I think it's a great project as is, and I encourage them to go with gusto. So, it's not a public hearing, so there's no public comment. It's just for the 5 of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that can be
So
streamlined for a half hour at the
So
most.
if we do that, I think we could talk about the planning strategy, our planning strategy without getting into the full weeds of knowing how long things are gonna take, and that's probably.
Yeah, I would like us to start talking about the coming year. Okay, so that's on the agenda, and let's try to put, whatever items are on that. I know we had this one at 7 o'clock, the A&R before it, and it was, technically, we probably kind of put it at 7:15, but any of the items on there, just kind of put a time starting time on there, which seems possible. We can, if we have to, we can fill in some voids. But I'll see
Hey,
if I-
Artie.
Yes, Natasha?
Sorry, excuse me a second. I thought we had meeting minutes also. Do we have any meeting minutes to review?
No, there aren't. No, there aren't.
Oh, there aren't any. Okay, I just saw
No,
the
there
agenda and I was looking.
It's a
Okay.
placeholder, yeah.
Before we go, are we okay with the committee appointments or?
Oh, no, one change. Thank you, Lee. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I would like to replace myself and the Climate Action Committee with Eric, is those meetings overlap with the Envision Needham one, and it's actually the Tree Committee one and even Envision Needham one. So I would like to replace Eric on the Climate Action. Eric has graciously said yes.
That is correct.
Nice.
Okay. So I think I nominate, do we have to vote on that?
Yes, I think you
Okay.
probably do.
I move Eric to replace Artie on the Climate Action Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? None. Eric, you want to bow out now? It's not too late.
Good.
Okay, no discussion. Natasha?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. You're it. I'll send your information to Nick Hill.
Perfect.
And also to Tyler, so they'll get all your contact information.
Forward to
Okay, and you had the text when the next meeting was?
Yes.
Okay, which is, I think, the 12th or something, whenever it
Mr.
was.
Chair?
Yes, Mr. Justin.
There is, as an FYI, there was not an Envision meeting since our last planning board meeting when we had the report, as well as there's not been a mobility planning and coordination committee meeting, so there's nothing to report on that.
Okay, thank you. And I think they were going to try to push out the next Envision meeting to possibly the 25th, was that?
25th, yeah, because
25th.
there was a conflict on the 18th, so, but they were just polling the number of, obviously, with a committee of 15 or 16, it's
Yeah, I think they're
very
being.
hard to.
Yeah. I think they're being careful, make sure they have a quorum.
Mr. Chair, I move adjourn.
Second?
Any discussion? None. Natasha?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Eric? Aye. Chair votes aye, we're adjourned. Thank you very much, guys.
Artie and Justin, could I grab you guys just for a quick minute?
Sure.